Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into some fascinating research
Oh, yeah.
into jailbreak prompts.
Yeah.
Those cleverly crafted instructions designed to get large language models to generate content that they're supposed to be blocked from creating.
Yeah, that's right.
So, like finding cheat codes for AI.
I like that analogy, yeah.
The paper that we're going to be exploring today is titled,
Yep.
Do Anything Now. Characterizing and Evaluating in the Wild Jailbreak Prompts on Large Language Models by researchers from CISPA Helmholtz Center for Information Security and NetApp.
Okay.
Now, this paper really caught my eye
Yeah.
because it analyzes thousands of real-world jailbreak prompts collected from all over the place, online communities including Reddit and Discord, even open-source data sets.
That's a really interesting source.
Yeah, they went deep.
Yeah.
So walk me through their approach. How did they tackle this research?
Well, the researchers had a three-pronged approach.
Okay.
They analyzed the characteristics of these prompts. Okay.
They mapped out the communities that are using them,
Right.
and then finally they evaluated how effective these prompts actually are against a variety of different LLMs.
Okay. So right off the bat, they uncovered some really interesting patterns. So tell me a bit about how these jailbreak prompts are different
Sure.
from normal harmless prompts.
One of the biggest differences is length.
Okay.
Jailbreak prompts are significantly longer than regular prompts,
Okay.
sometimes even 3 times longer.
Wow.
And this might be because they need to embed all these instructions to confuse the model
Okay.
or override its safety protocols.
So it's not just about the content of the prompt. It's
Yeah.
about the structure,
Exactly.
like the whole package.
Got it. Another characteristic that's not really that surprising is toxicity.
Okay.
Jailbreak prompts generally have much higher toxicity scores
Okay.
than regular prompts.
That makes sense.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Even prompts with low toxicity scores
Uh-huh.
were found to trigger harmful responses.
Interesting.
So that suggests that
Yeah.
the model's vulnerability isn't just based on explicit toxic language.
It's a much deeper problem than that.
It is, yeah.
So even seemingly harmless prompts can be weaponized.
Exactly.
Now, what about the semantics?
Okay.
Did the researchers find any patterns in the meaning and the themes
Yeah.
of these prompts?
They use natural language processing techniques
Mm.
to analyze the semantic content of the prompts.
Okay.
And they found something really interesting.
What's that?
Some jailbreak prompts were very similar semantically to regular prompts that are used for role-playing.
Well, that's fascinating.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're kind of mimicking that language
Yeah, they might be exploiting that.
to get around the defenses.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Now, you mentioned that the researchers
Yeah.
also mapped out communities that were using similar jailbreak prompts.
That's right.
So how did they do that? They used a technique called graph-based community detection,
Okay.
and they were able to identify 8 major communities, each with its own approach to jailbreaking these LLMs.
So let's unpack these communities a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Give me an example.
So one example is the basic community.
Okay.
And they primarily use variations of what's called the DAN prompt,
Dan.
which stands for Do Anything Now.
Okay.
And these prompts try to bypass the safeguards
Uh-huh.
by just instructing the LLM to take on a new persona
Okay.
that isn't bound by the rule.
So it's a very brute force approach?
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
On the other hand, you have the advanced community,
Hmm.
and they use much more sophisticated techniques.
Like what?
Well, things like prompt injection, where they're
prompt-
trying to insert hidden commands within a seemingly harmless prompt.
So hijacking the instructions.
Exactly.
Very clever.
Yeah, they also use things like privilege escalation, trying to give the model unauthorized capabilities,
Interesting.
and even deception, using misleading language to get past the safeguards.
That's almost like social engineering,
It is, yeah.
but for AI.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So they're exploiting vulnerabilities in the way that these models process information.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
What about the other communities?
Okay.
Did any of them particularly stand out?
Yeah, the researchers found a pretty significant platform shift,
Right.
with 3 communities emerging mainly on Discord.
Discord. Why Discord?
Well, it's probably because
Yeah.
it's a more private platform.
Okay.
It makes it much harder to track these activities.
So under the radar,
Exactly.
what were the names of those communities?
So the three communities were toxic,
Okay.
opposite,
All
and
right.
anarchy.
Okay, tell me about them.
So the toxic community is pretty self-explanatory.
I would assume so.
They're focused on getting the LLM to generate highly toxic responses
Okay.
using profanity and abusive language.
Mhm.
The opposite community uses two contrasting personas within the prompt.
Uh-huh.
So it's like creating this internal debate within the LLM,
Interesting.
which can sometimes lead to unexpected and harmful outputs.
And the last one, anarchy.
Anarchy was found exclusively on Discord,
Okay.
and they particularly target bypassing the safeguards
Go ahead.
related to pornography and hate speech.
So that deliberate concealment on these private platforms,
Yeah.
that's a concern
It is a concern.
because it shows how this landscape is
Yeah.
evolving
Mhm.
of developing and sharing these jailbreak prompts.
Absolutely.
So it seems like this move to more private platforms
Yeah.
is allowing for even more potent
Right.
and difficult to detect
Mm.
jailbreak prompts to be developed.
Exactly.
Did the researchers look into how these prompts have changed over time?
They did a temporal analysis,
Okay.
looking at the evolution of these jailbreak prompts month by month.
And what did they find?
One really surprising finding was that despite all these increasingly sophisticated techniques,
Okay.
the prompts themselves are actually getting shorter.
Shorter, I would have thought.
You would think,
They would get longer.
right, you'd think longer prompts with more intricate instructions would be more effective.
Yeah.
But they found that these shorter prompts
Mhm.
are actually becoming more potent.
Really?
The toxicity levels are increasing,
Wow.
meaning they're achieving their goal
Mhm.
of getting the LLM to generate harmful content
Yeah.
with fewer words.
So they're more concise, but more
Yeah.
effective.
Exactly. It
Mm.
suggests that the methods for creating these jailbreak prompts are becoming more efficient.
More targeted.
Exactly.
So double whammy.
Yeah,
More difficult to detect and more effective at the same time.
it's a problem.
What about the semantic evolution? The language,
Yeah.
the themes of these prompts?
Yes. So the researchers found
Over time.
that the prompts went through a pretty distinct semantic shift. Early on, there was a wider range of topics and styles,
Uh-huh.
kind of a period of exploration, you could say.
Experimentation.
Exactly. But as time went on,
Yeah.
the semantic space narrowed.
Okay.
Prompts started converging around specific themes
Uh-huh.
and strategies that proved to be most effective.
They found what worked.
Exactly. So it's like a process of refinement
Mm-hmm.
where attackers are identifying and honing in on the most successful techniques.
So they're learning.
They're learning.
They're adapting.
They're adapting.
They're optimizing their methods over time.
Exactly.
And this semantic shift seems to coincide
Yeah.
with that move to Discord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a correlation there.
Interesting.
By April, a significant portion of these jailbreak prompts were associated with the advanced community and their sophisticated attack strategies,
Okay.
many of which originated or were shared on Discord.
So Discord is providing
Yeah.
a more conducive environment
Yeah, you could say.
for this type of activity.
Mhm.
This paints a pretty concerning picture
It does.
of this cat and mouse game,
Yeah.
where the folks developing these jailbreak prompts are constantly coming up with new techniques.
Yeah.
And those who are trying to protect
Yeah.
LLMs are struggling to keep up.
It's a real challenge.
But the big question is,
Yeah.
how effective are these jailbreak prompts in actually breaking through the defenses of these models?
That's the key question.
So that's what the researchers set out to determine in the next phase of their study, where they really rigorously tested these prompts against 5 different LLMs.
Okay.
So let's dive into those results and find out just how vulnerable
Yeah.
these LLMs are to these increasingly sophisticated attacks.
Oh, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So to evaluate the effectiveness of these jailbreak prompts, the researchers tested them against 5 different large language models.
Okay. Which ones?
ChatGPT,
All right.
both the GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 versions, ChatGLM,
Okay.
Dolly,
And Vicuna.
and this selection included both commercial
That's right.
and open source models.
Exactly.
Okay, so a good mix to assess
Yeah. A diverse set.
how generalizable these techniques are. So how did they actually go about testing these prompts?
Well, they created what they called a forbidden question set.
Forbidden question set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Consisting of 46,800 questions
Wow.
designed to elicit responses that violate OpenAI's usage policy.
Interesting. So they were really trying to push the boundaries here.
Yeah, they were probing for vulnerabilities across 13 different scenarios.
Okay, so what kind of scenarios?
Things like illegal activities,
Okay.
hate speech, generation of malware,
Right.
providing financial advice or health advice.
So all the areas
Yeah.
where LLMs could potentially cause harm.
Exactly.
So how do they measure the success?
They calculated what they call the attack success rate, or ASR.
Attack success rate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which represents the percentage of forbidden questions that the LLM actually answered.
Okay.
When presented with a jailbreak prompt.
Okay, as opposed to...
Right, as opposed to just refusing
Okay.
or deflecting the question.
Okay, so they had a way to measure
Yeah.
whether the jailbreak prompt was actually effective.
Exactly.
Did they establish a baseline
They did.
to compare the effectiveness of these prompts
Right.
to the LLM's kind of inherent resistance
Yeah.
to answering these forbidden questions?
They measured what's called the attack success rate baseline,
Okay.
or ASRB,
ASRB.
which represents the percentage of forbidden questions that were answered without any jailbreak prompt at all.
So that gives them a good comparison point.
Right. It isolates the impact of
Yeah.
the jailbreak prompts.
Perfect. Okay, so what were the key findings?
Okay, so the results showed that
Yeah.
even without jailbreak prompts,
Okay.
some LLMs were vulnerable to certain forbidden scenarios.
Interesting.
For example, ChatGPT,
Yeah.
both GPT 3.5 and GPT-4. Okay.
ChatGLM
Mm-hmm.
and Vicuna
Yeah.
showed some initial resistance
Okay.
to things like illegal activity,
So they were trained.
probably due to the reinforcement learning from human feedback training.
Okay. So they were trained not to answer
Yeah.
those kinds of questions.
Exactly.
Well, what about the other scenarios?
They were more likely to answer questions
Okay.
related to political lobbying,
Interesting.
pornography, legal opinions,
Okay.
and financial advice.
So even with safeguards like RLHF,
Right.
there are still some weaknesses
There are definitely some weaknesses.
that attackers could exploit.
Yeah.
Now, what about Dolly,
Okay, so Dolly,
the open source LLM?
yeah, the first open source LLM intended for commercial use,
Okay.
showed minimal resistance across all the forbidden scenarios,
Really?
even without jailbreak prompts.
Wow.
Its ASRB was significantly higher
Than all the other models.
than the other models tested.
Oh, open source LLMs might be particularly vulnerable.
It seems that way,
But-
yeah. Okay, now how did the inclusion of jailbreak prompts change the attack success rates?
So the results were pretty striking.
Okay,
For LLMs that initially showed some resistance,
like ChatGPT.
like ChatGPT,
Uh-huh.
the introduction of jailbreak prompts caused a huge increase in the attack success rate.
Really, how much of an increase?
Well, for example, in the illegal activity scenario,
Okay.
where ChatGPT initially only answered about 5% of the questions
Okay.
without prompting,
Yeah.
the ASR jumped to over 50%
Wow.
when using jailbreak prompts.
So more than 10 times.
Yeah, and in some cases it reached as high as 99%
Right.
with the most effective prompts.
Wow, so almost every single question.
Almost every single one. Yeah.
That's a pretty dramatic demonstration
It is, yeah.
of how these prompts can get around the safeguards.
They're definitely effective.
Now, GPT-4 is supposed to have
Yeah.
enhanced safety features.
Yeah.
Did it fare any better?
Unfortunately, not by much.
Really?
The average attack success rate across all the tested jailbreak prompts
Yeah.
for GPT-4 was almost 70%.
Wow.
And it reached almost 100% with the most potent prompts.
So even the most advanced LLMs
Yeah.
are not immune to
Oh,
these
I see.
techniques.
It's a problem.
Right now, did the researchers find any differences in the effectiveness
Yeah.
of the different jailbreak prompt communities?
Yeah, there were significant variations.
Okay.
As you might expect, the advanced community, with their prompt injection and deception,
Uh-huh.
had a much higher success rate than the
Mm.
basic community, who
Yeah.
were just using those simple Dan persona prompts.
So the level of sophistication matters.
It definitely matters.
What about the communities
Okay.
that were focused on generating toxic content?
Right. So the toxic and opposite communities, mostly found on Discord,
Uh-huh.
were not only really effective
Oh, yeah.
at getting the LLMs to generate toxic responses,
Yeah.
but they were also really good at bypassing the safeguard across various scenarios.
So those operating under the radar
Yeah.
on Discord,
They're the ones to watch.
they're creating some of the most potent jailbreak prompts.
It seems that way.
That's a concern.
It is a concern.
Now, what about existing safeguards?
Okay.
Did the researchers look into whether
They did.
the current methods for detecting
Yeah.
and blocking harmful content are actually effective against these jailbreak prompts?
They evaluated 3 existing safeguards.
Okay, which...
OpenAI's moderation endpoint,
Okay.
the OpenChatKit moderation model,
Mm-hmm.
and NEMA guardrails.
Okay, and what did they find?
Well, unfortunately,
Yeah.
the results weren't very encouraging.
Oh, no.
None of the safeguards were particularly effective
Right.
at consistently mitigating the impact
Of the jailbreak prompts.
of these jailbreak prompts, yeah.
So they did reduce...
It did reduce the average attack success rate a little bit,
But not by much.
but their effect on the most potent jailbreak prompts
Yeah.
was minimal.
So we're in a situation where the tools we have to protect these LLMs
Yeah,
aren't quite keeping up with the techniques being used to exploit them.
it's a challenge.
So where do we go from here?
That's the big question.
What are the implications of these findings? It seems like we're really at a crossroads
Yeah.
where the development of safeguards is falling behind
Mm-hmm.
the rapid evolution of these jailbreak prompts.
Yeah, it's a real challenge.
So what are the bigger implications of these findings?
Well, I think this research is a stark warning
Yeah.
about the potential for misuse of these large language models.
Mhm.
It really underscores the urgent need for more robust and adaptive safeguards.
Right, we need better ways
Yeah,
to protect these models.
absolutely.
The paper talks about some potential solutions in the
Yeah.
discussion section.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the key takeaways?
Well, one thing they emphasize is that relying on
Yeah.
static rules or keyword-based detection
Right,
is
yeah.
not enough.
It's too easy to get around those areas.
It is, yeah, the current safeguards are easily circumvented because they
Right.
don't really understand the intent, the context behind the prompts.
So we need a more nuanced approach.
We do.
One that can understand the underlying strategies
Exactly.
that are being used
Yeah.
in these jailbreak prompts.
The paper suggests exploring more advanced natural language processing techniques
Okay.
that can actually analyze the semantic structure and the
Okay.
intent behind the prompts.
So we can detect malicious intent even if
Yeah.
there isn't any overt toxicity.
Yeah, or keywords.
Safeguards that can think more like the attackers.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Anticipate those evolving techniques.
Exactly.
Now, another important point that they raised
Yeah.
is the need for better training data sets
Yes,
with
absolutely.
these safeguards.
A lot of the existing methods are only effective against
Right.
specific types of harmful content.
But as we saw
Right,
with
yes.
that forbidden question set, the range of potential misuse scenarios is huge.
And it's constantly expanding.
So we need to move beyond this reactive approach
Yeah,
to something more proactive and comprehensive.
absolutely. We need to be ahead of the curve.
And this is where the research community is so important.
It is. Yeah.
Continued research into how these jailbreak prompts work,
Mm.
how they're evolving,
Yeah.
is essential for developing
Absolutely.
effective countermeasures.
It's an ongoing arms race.
It is.
We need to be vigilant.
And innovative.
Exactly.
Now, beyond the technical solutions,
Yeah.
the paper also talks about the importance of
Awareness
awareness.
and collaboration.
We need to be having these conversations
I do.
with LLM developers,
Yeah.
policymakers,
Mm-hmm.
even the general public
Absolutely.
about the potential risks
The ethical implications
of these technologies.
Yeah.
And we need to have these conversations now
Right.
before these technologies become
More deeply integrated.
even more integrated into our lives. This research is a wake-up call.
It is.
It highlights the need for
A multifaceted approach.
a multifaceted approach,
So that includes technical innovation,
robust safeguards,
ethical consideration.
and ongoing collaboration.
Yeah, we need to work together on this.
This deep dive has been fascinating,
Yes.
if a little bit unsettling,
Yeah, a bit of a reality check.
but it really underscores that while these LLMs have enormous potential,
They do.
they also present some very real challenges
Challenges we need to address.
that we need to confront head-on to ensure that these
Yeah.
models are integrated into society
Safely and beneficially.
safely and beneficially.
Safely and beneficial.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.